Hey, friends. I hope you're well. I was just going through a memory blast, and the memory blast of the amount of love, the amount of connection, the amount of people involved in the torch, the amount of amazing events globally. I got to be part of the Hybrid Institute today on education. Online education was discussed. That's what the conference is, APOS 2020. And it sparked me to come live. I've been off social media for about, I don't know, a little over a week. It's been good for me. I've been really contemplating a lot of different areas of my life. As many of you know, I graduated from a Master of Divinity in May. And as I moved forward in the process, there's been a lot of, different conversations, and I really needed to discern and go inward. And as many of you know, we just led 5 days of peace, actions for peace, and we're focused on Torch Health now in December. As a minister for years, ministering to the people, I haven't had a direct link to any particular ministry. So this week I've been talking to the ministry of John Coltrane. It's been a really powerful conversation with one of my sisters. This last week, I think I spoke with her. And John Coltrane really believed in the mission of sound, and he started his own church. And he really believed in Jesus and the level of love. And for me, Jesus has been dear to me. It was the Franciscan feast day yesterday, and I got to be a part of a lecture from my old alma mater, the Franciscan School of Theology. And I was able to open myself to a deeper inquiry. I wear my Franciscan cross around my neck. I call myself a Franciscan. And as I start looking at Francis's life and the rule of life, I wanted to get on and talk about education and what I feel is missing. What I feel is part of the process of how we as a humanity move forward. I'm very excited about a couple of opportunities that are preparing themselves to me or appearing to me this week, and I'm excited about that. My last child just graduated from high school, and I was able to move forward into just a lot of gratitude. My kids have gone through regular normal bumps, but I think education, when we start thinking about education, we have to start thinking about a world for peace. And for me, the three of those, 4 pillars of the torch, peace, health, environment, and tech, are really about a dream to help the world connect. And because I'm a theologian, and because my heart is so deeply embedded into theology, my heart moves into working with people from all different cultures. And so my bachelor's is in cultural studies and my master's is in multicultural pastoral degree. So a pastoral degree for me is ministry in the largest sense of the world. I got certified as a faith community nurse in 2011. I'm also a registered nurse, and I believe that Jesus's mission was deeply embedded in health of the community from a one peaceful world idea. When we look at education, we are educating students for just jobs, and we're not educating them from an inner peace, from an inner health, from an idea of a deeper environment around them, which is a supportive environment as well as an environment within them, about their passion. There's a passion of environments. My good friend speaks about the 9 environments, and when you set up your life for healthy environments, I highly recommend Jim Bunch. He's a really great scholar, leader, and he speaks about the 9 environments, and I really love his work. He's been a solar leader with my son, Adam, and when we think about environment, most of us just go towards the environment of climate change. When I think about environment, I think about environment of our global witness to environment. So education for me has to witness a global education that sees environment as key to where we need to go as a society, as a humanity. Because somebody in Bangladesh, we have 4 members of our Torch team in Bangladesh. They're all scholars. One is an organic chemistry major that started with Torch, Mohammed Anam. When we started working together, he was so excited to learn about the organic food movement, the environmental understanding from me, the understanding of why climate change is actually even happening. What we're doing to students in scholarly institutions, we are teaching them about knowledge and organic chemistry, but we're not implementing how they can implement that into the world in an engagement. So we worked for many months together. He's so busy now as a teacher. He's very well loved. And Bangladesh loses, what I learned about Bangladesh is it loses 15 feet of earth every year. 15 feet of earth. That means many people are losing their homes. Many people are being displaced. And that's a theological problem. That's a theological, spiritual problem in my estimation, just like the war. And so we engage a lot of our work in peace. We have Haji Khan Faroch, Kazrat Rai, Hamad Safi, and Taqwa Ahmed, all working in peace work along with others. We have so many environmental ambassadors, and every day I'm getting texts from Fatima Aziz, and yesterday our new friend Chakwal. And you know, we are deepening the idea that peace has to come from that engagement. And our beautiful friend Fazal Japanawala, which is I call him a Torch member. He really protected me when I went to Pakistan. Went with me my first trip to some of the education programs that I taught at. I spoke in front of 200 administrators. And when you start thinking about global peace, when I started looking, you know, my business, Kiraku, was an organic food business. I worked in out of Ithaca, New York. I raised my children there. And Kiraku was a wholesale producer. I was a wholesale producer of organic foods. I taught natural food cooking. Many people even then didn't understand my thinking about health, because health is about that inner peace. Health is about that inner relationship to peace. If we don't bridge an ethical relationship to our children in education, we have no way to bridge them in this idea of just going to a mosque or going to a church or going to a place where we're not bridging the gap between education and our theological ideas. So what a lot of my work has been in the last couple of years is helping people understand. But in Ithaca, I really started looking at green building because chemicals make children sick. And if your home is sick, physically sick, how can you go to school and study? How can you go to school and study understanding of anything? if your mind is being bombarded with chemical, and you are being bombarded with a chemical world and a chemical age, our society is very asleep to education and ministry together. And I feel like I've bridged a gap over the years to create system change. For many, many years, I went to Catholic retreats. Starting in my 20s, I did 3-day monastic type prayer with Catholic nuns and monks. And this was in my 20s. And I started doing that. I was a homeschooling mom, but I did that because I was being called into a very deep, rich call to ministry. And when we think about our ministry, I want to share with you that most of our denominations are very close-minded about a certain type of ministry, just like education, a certain type of education. And if we don't bridge that ministry to our families in peace, health, environment, and technology, if we don't bridge the gap between theological ideas, spiritual well-being of a human being, spiritual well-being of humanity, spiritual well-being of the simplistic idea that if you are healthy, let's teach our children to pray. There was no greater witness than the school in Balochistan. When I started working with 100 children, most of them orphans in Balochistan, Pakistan. And the school was completely barren. There were no plants. There was nothing living on that property, nothing alive. And when I look at education, it has to be alive, or we're not educating, because we are alive. We're a living body of a humanity. We are a living body of this great creation, whatever you call it. And when we started growing plants, me guiding the school to grow plants with the children, you could see the light in the eyes of the children that started sparking something much greater in education than just teaching them math and English and science. They can relate their science now to the plants on their yard. They can relate their relationship to science and education and technology. Because what happened after about a year of this education, of growing plants on a schoolyard, these kids started praying publicly on a platform on Facebook Live. Phenomenal. All of their Muslim prayers were out in the world for the first time in that school. This is the first sustainable school in Pakistan, in my estimation, because they're educating from their prayers for peace. The girls and the boys, they are showing their witness to educating peace. And if we don't help education arise to that foremost relationship, whether you're Buddhist, why can't, in second grade here in Berkeley, my daughter was praying with her teacher, but he didn't call it prayer. He called it meditation. We're going to sit quiet. He didn't even call it meditation. He said, before we start our day, we're going to sit. This is second grade in Berkeley, California. The children sat in meditation. They sat in meditation for, maybe just 2 minutes, but he would ring the bell and we would sit. I actually went into that classroom during my Franciscan studies. And this type of education was so powerful to be able to bridge the witness of our spiritual path, our spiritual well-being, our spiritual understanding of theology in ministry and peace in education, bridging the gap to what is it that a Hindu tradition cannot bring that to the children in the schools as they're educating. So Torch is doing very different education and ministry in its way. And I call it a ministry because I feel like my heart is called by God, that the Torch mission came from a much greater source than myself. I'm just human. I make a ton of mistakes. I am human as you get. But my heart in the education and what I've seen over the years, just by homeschooling my own children, just by seeing the spark within my own children. These are my two youngest. They're holding a daikon plant. Sorry, my two oldest. This is Adam and Brianna. Adam is 39 today, and he's a solar engineer, and Brianna is studying to be a midwife. They educated till 8th and 9th grade at home. What we did is music, and through music, through understanding gardens, through understanding planting seeds, through understanding ideas, they both are following their dream. All 5 of my children, I have one just starting college, so she's at the beginning, but she's been in public school the longest. And I have to be honest, our public education in America is not educating in a way that is exciting. The children here in Marin, we are one of the largest drug areas, and there's more drugs here, opiate addiction, opiate problems, you name it. And when we start looking at drugs and alcohol in our school systems, it goes rampant by senior year of high school, much less. My daughter was telling me kids in 7th and 8th grade are selling drugs on the playground here in Marin. This is one of the wealthiest counties in America, and they're selling drugs on the playgrounds. Why is that? There's something missing. And I know we separated religion and school and many years ago in this country, but at the same time, why can't we sit with meditation? Why can't we sit with children, learning from children across the world, from theological ideas? So when I look at programs in education systems, I see a need. And for the next 3 days, I'm going to speak on education at the Hybrid Institute, part of APOS, out of online education in Pakistan. APOS 2020, I heard some really great speakers, and we talked about education and tech. What value and unique systems does your organization do? We have been lacking in our tech teams. We've been lacking in money. I just graduated, so I haven't been focused on building the resources for Torch as much as I would have liked, but I had to finish my degree. As you look at the ideas around online education right now, even for college students, are we really implementing? And there were some amazing speakers. J.C. Schwartz out of edX talked about MIT and education, and I've been talking to a couple of people around 3D education and what it would take, but I also talk with other friends that are involved in Waldorf education. I was an early adopter of Rudolf Steiner's work in my 20s. I taught my children through this type of curriculum because Rudolf Steiner was the most enlightened man in Europe. Now, he spoke of such a deep education that we educate our children through many different layers. So in 1st grade, fairy tales are still taught. And the fairy tales are taught because he believed that children were still in their magical mind, that they didn't need intellect at that point. They needed more playfulness to be able to bring their heart, their spiritual well-being into their life path. They didn't need such rote 1, 2, 3s, get me on my knees. You know, like it's almost like our education has become this catapult into the intellect that is so dysfunctional. So the children in the Steiner School, the 2nd grade curriculum is let me think. The 3rd grade is biblical. The 4th is Hindu. The 5th is Greek, and they do the Greek games. And they learn different theological ideas throughout their education. So a lot of my ideas come and spring out of Rudolf Steiner's ideas, but I brought it forward one more step, and that's about health. When we run into health issues in our education system, I've been a nurse in the schools this year. I've been seeing younger and younger children with diabetes and really deep issues. I'm seeing children not respecting each other, not engaging in each other's lives. I'm in the schools directly as a nurse. And when I start looking at this type of education that is not bringing the full embodiment of a human being, Rudolf Steiner brought the full embodiment of a child that into the body, into the physicality, into the nourishment. The kindergarten class in a Steiner relationship is about the hearth and the home. That as you move out of the home, the child has to be nurtured into the hearth and the home, nurtured in a way that they are gently moved from the mother's womb, which is the home. You know, the mother takes care of that womb, but the womb of the mother going into the heart of education in such a deep, rich way. And the richness of this hearth and home is taught through very sweet, gentle ways, the one day of baking bread, so that they're still with their mother in their own engagement spiritually. They're still with their ideas. Their coloring is with soft watercolor because it's movement. We need movement in our lives, our spiritual lives. When I go into a kindergarten classroom, I feel like I missed that as a human being. I missed that nourishment from hearth and home to education and moving forward. Now, children from dysfunctional homes moving into this type artistic moment of kindergarten in itself or preschool in America has to come from a nourishment of hearth and home. So doing practical application, and Torch brings seeds into idea. Just putting dirt, using your hands to put dirt into containers is what a kindergartner could be doing. The second grader, the first grader can be starting to plant seeds because their fingers and they're dexterous, they can focus a little better. The second grader can start watering the plants. The third grader can start developing these plants. When you move into the third grade, the 9-year-old change, Rudolf Steiner would say, this 9-year-old change is a rich relationship to the child moving into their intellect. They want to still be a child, but they still want to move into the next engagement. So the first 3 grades, teaching about plants and science, is really a hands-on education. So it's a nourishment from the hearth and home to the nourishment into schools. The nourishment is bringing that. And why can't we sit for a meditation? Why can't we sit and play? And, games and play and playfulness and engagement and movement is way out of our education. When you cross over, it's like not even there. By 5th grade, Rudolf Steiner said, let's go into the Greek games and have competitions, just like they did back in the Greek way. Where did our education system come from? Okay, Aristotle, Socrates, setting up the cities, right? So where do we move education from that physicality, the embodiment of that 5th grader, the embodiment of that great idea? I mean, he was brilliant in his education ideas. He was brilliant in bringing understanding. So when you think about your own education systems, I've been working a lot with the indigenous cultures for the last 6 months. We had a fire education out of Good of the Whole. I want to highly recommend Good of the Whole. I also want to educate from Jose Munoz. He started the fires 6 months ago. And every day there was a fire being built. April 4th he started. It's 185th day, I think, today. I started seeing this education online for us as adults during COVID. And people were sharing from a deep, heartfelt way. And what we're missing, even as adults, is this deep heart connection, that we're missing our own essence because education didn't even bring it. You've got so many people, they call it in America the midlife crisis. What is a midlife crisis? If we haven't nurtured something, the midlife crisis is about the midlife relationship to oneself. And what happens in midlife crisis? If it's not connected, if it's not spiritually connected, if we're not spiritually connected, the adults in our lives are missing the complete mishap of spiritual understanding and spiritual nourishment. That comes from so many different ways. It can come from your tradition, but it can also come from other traditions because it can nourish your heart to understand the global platform. If we just think, working in Islam and the Muslim community for just 4 years, going on 5 years now, you look at the depth of an American woman, had no idea about trying to get involved in the Muslim. I had no idea why that even dropped into my consciousness. What made this happen? It only is the mystery. It's the mystery of God that made that happen. It's not me. And so if we don't give us a little bit of opening to the mystery of education, the mystery of space and spaciousness, and I'm going to go back to my own children. These two kids, when I had my fourth child, I moved them into a Waldorf school. Let's see, it would have been third and fourth grade, or second and third grade, I think. Third and fourth. I worked in the school part-time. I pulled them out after a year because you know what? All of a sudden they said, we're bored at home. They had never been bored in their lives. They were engaged. My son was building 2-story houses at a very young age with his hands and his physical body because he's a boy and he needed the physicality of boy education and his own body. And girls need that too, not to separate girls and boys, but that idea of the physicality and engagement, and then all of a sudden being put in a school system, even though it was a beautiful school system, they weren't given room to be themselves. So when I start thinking about education, we have to go much greater in giving a child room. And right now, what I'm hearing with COVID education in America, the kids are online all day. They're not even getting the physicality. Now, my granddaughter calls me from the beach. Her parents bring them to the beach. And, when I think about that, those ions of all that online education are going out into the ocean, I'm like, yes, they're creating a handful of ideas because when we're online, when we're on these machines, this is what I sell, Gia Wellness. I have these, and if you're interested, but this is a protection for EMFs. Our children are getting bombarded from our minds and our bodies and our spirit. And I'm sure the parents and all the parents being online, we're ruining our health from our own mishap of not giving each other space. So education in itself has to have huge spaciousness right now. Spaciousness in the spirit, spaciousness for the spiritual well-being, spaciousness for love to come in. How do you build love from your heart without giving you space? We go through a bump, somebody might die or somebody might spiritually, be affected by trauma or misplaced or displaced. The biggest thing in my theological education is how we judge each other. And that person that we judge on this other side, the person of the other, we judge most. That person that's sick, or that person that's not well, or that person that's not doing well, or that person is negative, or that person is not doing a really, healthy thing right now. But we don't educate why we judge. We don't educate why are we judging. It has nothing to do with me, except I can pray for that person. I'm a prayerful person. You can think about that person. If you're not a prayerful person, you can think about that person in your own tradition. You can think about that person that you want to judge and pray for them. But instead, we want to just point fingers and move up out. When we make decisions about humanity, which is very crucial right now. This is an adult conversation, this beautiful idea that Jonathan Budd, he's a solar, amazing entrepreneur. He and Jim Bunch and my sons and I all got involved in solar. And Jonathan, when he said that, I don't know if it was him or Pachamama, but he's very connected to Pachamama. And he had the vision that the whole world needed to go solar, and he put it into implementation. He heard the dream and put it into implementation, excuse me. And we start thinking about this, and we don't give each other space to even do that. He did that on an ayahuasca, place in the, Amazon. That's where he found his vision. When are we giving space for our children's vision? We aren't. We aren't even coming close to a child's vision, let alone adults. We don't even, I'm part of the indigenous. I did a sweat lodge on Saturday with my indigenous community. I hadn't done a sweat lodge in a lot of years. And I might get tears now because the day was spent in prayer, right? And I hadn't spent a whole day in prayer in a while. And I need to get to a monastic moment for myself. And that was where I went. And when you look at this type of dropping in education, do you know how many young people were there? 30-year-olds searching and questing. And they're going out in the mountain for a 4-day vision quest. There's 7 of them. And they're going to go out in the mountain with no food, no water, but they're going to go deep inside themselves. And I'm going to support them, and I'm going to go up and cook, and I'm hoping I can really be part of this. We start on the 17th, and they go into the woods on the 19th. I did this with my own kids. I let them go in. There was education out of Kripalu Yoga Center for coming of age. It was really significant. And the teachers that were involved in my children's lives after that education moment in our Steiner school was so beautiful because, we moved into different areas. But when you start looking at educating us as a humanity and educating the educators, I really hope that I can move into educating the educators, because when I start thinking about the painful process of where our humanity is at today, spiritually, emotionally, physically, it's toxic. It's toxic. Globally, it's toxic. Globally, it's a mess. I look at my good friend Fazal. He's growing trees in Karachi, and Karachi just was hit with one of the biggest floods. It's supposed to be a city that will sink. In the SDG, the UN SDG talks that we worked with on SDG Academy with Amar Jaffrey's organization, and Sadaf is the CEO. This idea that Karachi will go under the earth because of climate change is the same here as California. California is supposed to go under. I saw the floods there, and I saw the fires here, and I was in the middle of it because I teach a lot in Karachi and out of that global community, and I have a lot of friends there. And what are we doing with the waters and the fires? So what I did in the last little while, I went into the lodge where the water was recognized, Sweat Lodge on Saturday. I went up to the indigenous peoples up north, and we built a dream catcher with Jose Munoz. He has a dream to do 144 of these dream catchers for peace and an outdoor education for spiritual well-being. I've been invited to teach there. I've been invited to teach at the universities. I've been invited to teach at, you name it, and it's been beautiful. But what I mostly want to do is help the educators educate, because if we don't bring ourselves down, just to an educator in itself. We had one educator on our team, and she was from Karachi, and she flirted with another team member, and it ended up being really messy, and I was involved intimately, and it became a mess, and these messes we don't talk about. And if we don't talk about the mess, like the waters coming into Karachi, we forget so quickly as human beings. We forget so quickly. How do we reconcile? And so in theology, at the Franciscan school, in the Catholic tradition, reconciliation is where I first learned about sin. I grew up in a Protestant tradition. Sin was not recognized in the Protestant church. It was kind of this thing where, oh, those Catholics are teaching all about sin. And it really wasn't that. It was so much greater in my thought of sin and my own reconciliation within myself. Before I took bread and wine at the altar, I had to sit with myself. And to this day, I will kneel on the ground before I take any communion. Because if I kneel to the earth, that means I'm connected to this earth. And I'm connected to the spiritual values that I believe in myself. If we don't take responsibility internally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, there's nowhere to go. So when I talk to an educator and I think about Torch in the way that we are bringing this alive, I mean, there's no greater being than watching, Haji Khan ride his bike across Pakistan for peace. He's been riding into terrorist sites. There'd be a bombing in a school. And when I first met him, he said, yeah, I'm going to a school that's been bombed. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. What makes a man just get on his bike and put a white flag, and now he rides the Torch flag, and he rides the Pakistan flag, and he's an honor for Pakistan. But he's not even seen. But what makes this person, he's very seen now, I take that back. He's very seen. Haji Khan is getting more and more and more recognition because he's done tremendous amount of work for Pakistan and peace. What is it when a child in a schoolyard could have Haji Khan ride his bike into the schoolyard and really meet into the recognition of peace? But I mean, why aren't we bridging the lay people connected to education to the educators? We aren't even coming close. We might teach about, other ideas out in education like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, but we don't really look at what was it that took a person and really intimately took. So when I think about Taqwa Ahmed, a little girl that is my daughter and I deeply love, and I'll spend more time with her hopefully this next year. This girl I met when she was 12. I think 11 actually. And she was in a wheelchair. And she was recognized already from the UN, the Rotary Club, speaking about positivity and peace. What brought this child forward? Who brought this child forward? I'm only, when I was in Pakistan, Abdullah Samin spoke in our room. Abdullah Samin spoke and he said, if it wasn't for Mama Lynn bringing me to really open myself up on online education, I wouldn't be where I am today with thousands of followers. He was in a school with Hamad Safi. There were bumps. There were Mohammed Hasnain. There were bumps. All my kids were going through these bumps. But where were the bumps? They were in the parents. And when you look at bumps of education, we have to look at these bumps and say, can we put our sword down? Can we put our backpacks down of arrogance and delusion? We can't unless we do our own work. If we don't do our own work, our own spiritual work, we don't have a place in education. We really don't. These kids need us. These kids need us to show up. We need to grow up and show up as adults. And that grow up and show up is about you doing your work in peace, in an internal wave of peace, an internal wave of constant education within you. I have to do it all the time. I'm an emotional mess a lot of times. I'm a Cancer, I was born in the sign of Cancer in July. I'm such a sensitive soul. And I cry up, I tear up easy. And it's really because I feel the earth. I have a feeling this beautiful presence of our children. What is it to live the dream of one peaceful world? What is it to take a child and say, you can do this, and spend weeks with him to say, you got this, and checking in with him and say, it's okay, you got this, and bringing them into their power. He really wanted to speak online. He really wanted to speak in his nation, Pakistan. Ahmad Safi comes to me and he said, Mama Lynn, I want to really, join the torch. And I said, awesome, let's do it. I'm so glad you're here. And that was because of Taqwa Ahmed. He had met Taqwa. And Taqwa, again, back to Taqwa Ahmed, this girl is beyond the beyond. She's a spiritually gifted leader. And she and I know each other well spiritually. And we look at each other and, she came up with the Torch family because it became a family. And if you want to be part of the Torch, feel free. We're not exclusive at all. There's a recognition of just like standing for something within peace, health, environment, and tech. I got talking to my beautiful Pravin Patel yesterday, part of the, I claimed him the Torch for this 3rd year. Taqwa Ahmed was the first year, 3 years ago, claimed her for the whole year. And I just totally honored her work and her positivity. And she fulfilled all the 4 pillars: peace, health, environment, and tech. And she was the extraordinary in all of those. Haji Khan the next year, peace, health, environment, and tech, all 4 of those. He just was riding his bike. He was educating, he was developing, he had amazing health, and he was doing technological. He was that 2nd year. This 3rd year is Pravin Patel. Pravin Patel is climbing the mountain in the Himalayas. He's written 6 or 8 books. I don't know how many. I don't keep track because he's just prolific. He's moving in education online and moving in the way in the world to catapult people and catapult wisdom. I have a page, Catapult Wisdom. Pravin should be that page, I really think we need to catapult wisdom, because the 4 pillars, if you really stand for the 4 pillars within themselves, you will bridge that. I can't do that. I don't have my health yet completely. I did academia. My health became down because I was doing academia. Why wasn't education educating me on my own personal health? It wasn't theological education. So I take responsibility, but I had to pay for my education myself. I had to work full-time, be a full-time mom to 5 kids. I have one more. I was really just one child in the last few years, but I'm just so grateful because, I chopped wood and carried water, but my health is not good right now. It's got to get back, and I'm working on it. I've been working on it for the last, 3 years diligently, actually 5 years. When I got my concussion, somebody ran into my car and I got a concussion 5 years ago. And somebody in December ran into my car again. So I'm back at my healers and I'm back at healing. And then I got COVID. I went to Pakistan. I didn't come back sick, but 5 weeks later, I got really sick in March. And I was sick for 8 weeks. And I was like, boy, my immune system shouldn't be this low. So I'm working diligently on my immunity, my own personal well-being. So I don't fit the 4 pillars, but Pravin, you got it, man. He is such a deep witness to the torch this year. So please keep your eyes on Pravin Patel. Please keep your eyes on Haji Khan and Taqwa. They're amazing. And as you move into, this level of commitment in life, Khazrat Rai, he went to Christchurch. The Muslims a year ago got killed in the mosque in a Christian tradition of, New Zealand has a lot of Muslims, and here's a mosque and here are people getting shot, and people are so afraid of Pakistan. There's no school shootings in Pakistan. I just want to tell you, America, I love America. It's my country. I love being a patriotic person. I love my country. But that doesn't mean my country is any better than your country or your country or your country. I believe that the melting pot here has given me the witness of a global understanding. And that global understanding for our children right now is there's no greater gift to give our kids than a global education. And that global education has to come from you. You're a parent, it has to come from you. What are you putting into the ears of our children? They've got spiritual ears. And what I hear parents doing is talking about that country, talking about this country, talking about that politics, talking about what are our children hearing? What is the voice of the child? Can the child hear other words, other thoughts? The sound of the presence for me is the sound of God. And if we don't globally connect, spiritually connect, emotionally connect, that theological idea between education and theology, and education and understanding, a global understanding, a spiritual understanding, a peaceful education, peace to our children, teaching peace, teaching environment, teaching health, teaching technology in a way that is global, in a non-toxic way that Torch brings to you just something unique in itself, because we're not about a religion, we're universal. But those 4 pillars are universal in all areas. So if we could teach our children that they can be peacekeepers, or they can be health administrators, or they can be environment but they know people from other countries, and they know that the connect is so rich. When my 15-year-old spoke to those children in Balochistan, and there were 15-year-olds from Balochistan and 15-year-olds here, my daughter was like, who are you talking to, those kids? Because she heard the voice of kids. She directly wanted to go be with the kids, right? Kids want to be with kids. They don't want to be with us as adults. We're boring, right? How many good teachers are there out there that say you need kids? You know, you need to connect so much, and I'm here for you. And let's figure out where you're headed. And what does that mean? She connected 15-year-old to 15-year-old. Then my grandkids were here, and they got to spoke to Hasnain, and it was Sophia and Chloe, and their parents wouldn't have wanted them online, so they were off to the side. But Hasnain was talking to them, and it was like, you know, they were just amazingly excited. They were like, you know, this is, Chloe was probably maybe 10, maybe less than, yeah, maybe 10 years old. And Sophia was 8, and they were here, and their little one. They said, what are you doing, Grandma? And I said, well, I have to be on with my Torch member. And they said, who is it? And I said, well, Hasnain is 6. And they were like, wow. They wanted to talk to him. There was a spark. You get it? There's a spark. So if it's just like me meeting you as an adult online. Haji Khan and I cried when we met each other in the physical. We just cried. We sat and cried. We'd been working online for, I don't know, a year and a half before we met. Takwa and I and Haji Khan met together. We cried. I mean, I just held her and her parents and her brother. And her brother wouldn't go, he just wanted to be by me. And I love these children. And if we don't stand for the children of the world to start embracing the children to children education, a global education, a way that we can embrace humanity, in a way that we can embrace the heart and soul of our society, the heart and soul of our witness to each other, How do we witness otherwise? We won't have anywhere to go. So it looks like I'm going to come to Denmark, and it looks like I'm going to come to Pakistan. And as I do this, and I pray, and I hope you'll bring me, just ask. I'll come and talk to your administrators in your schools. I'll talk to your business people. We need it in business. We need, this year I came up to see business after COVID, because it was like collaboration to collaboration to collaboration, because we all need it now. The farmers to farmers. Oh my gosh, do the farmers need each other or what? They're feeding us through COVID. Do you know how much the farmers went through COVID? Do the children know how much the farmers went through? That's been my global education for eons. I've been taking college students out. One of my students is coming here in December, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really kind of just want to stay, and I want to meet up with him. He's in Tasmania, and he worked with me at Kiraku, and he would show up every day, and he just wanted to sit and talk to me. He's just a wisdom keeper. He takes safaris out in Tasmania. He's one of my college students from Ithaca College. And the college students came, and we made sauerkraut. And the sauerkraut, was sold at the farmers market. So we went out first and met farmers at Acre Farm. And Acre is a long-standing organic producer in America. And it was just phenomenal. And then we went back to the kitchen, and we cut we filled the walk-in cooler with cabbages, huge cabbages. And it was like stacked a foot high, and a 10 by 12 cooler. That's how much cabbage we picked, a truckload of cabbage. We had these big white buckets, and we chopped. The second time we met, I said, okay, we're going to meet this day, and we're going to chop, and we're going to make sauerkraut. So yeah, chopped. We had probably 12 people filling buckets of sauerkraut. So it's just cabbage and salt, and mixing with your hands. This is your heart. Mix, 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 mix. Big buckets. Put them back in the cooler. They actually had to stay out. It wasn't an easy project, but we had to meet again. I said, okay, let's sell our sauerkraut to the farmers market. So they learned the economics. Okay, what's it going to take to jar up this sauerkraut? They learned packaging and understanding, right? These are college students that brought my work into college arenas because they saw the need. Like none of them were doing hands-on education. And so they got lost in their own thoughts and, I'm just going to get a job but they get lost because they don't have the root of where they actually come from, which is food. We wouldn't have these bodies, hair, without putting food. Thank God to Michio and Abilene Kushi, that had the dream of one peaceful world, and the early founders of my vision and mission, and how the torch dream came alive. Michio died. He got honored at the Smithsonian for changing American history with the natural food movement. He was from Japan. I love Japan. Got to go to Japan. Got to be with many elders, spiritual leaders. And, recognition of peace on this planet. Right now, there's no greater time. And as I was with Dalak and Munoz, Jose Munoz, and all the elders and the children stuck by me last week, as well as talking to the elders and, recognizing the children. The children were bringing drinks to the elders, serving. So I'll leave you with this, because yesterday was the Franciscan feast day of St. Francis. Hospitality is one of the greatest gifts I saw in Pakistan. And wherever I lectured in Pakistan in the last 2 years, I basically said, this is my pilot program in Pakistan, but it's going global, and we're in 9 countries. And I said, your hospitality is great. I said, I pray you don't lose your hospitality. But in the Franciscan tradition this week, I heard one of our scholars, Mary Ingrid, and she's an amazing scholar. She's um, I'm not sure, she's a nun, but I'm not sure which order. Please forgive me, Mary. But she must be in the Franciscan tradition. She was amazing this week, talking about beauty. And my other professor has a book coming out, Beauty. But beauty from the Franciscan tradition is about beauty within, that internal growth, and that external. That Francis really believed in this internal and external service out to the world and an internal growth. And that's all that Torch is about. And that's why I hope you can see the Organization for Realizing Change in Humanity, that we are working day and night, all of us. Fatima just showed planting this week. Fatima Aziz is a great teacher, and she's so excited, and I said, let's do it. So being in Karachi for a while will be good if I can manifest all that I need to manifest. But if you have a school that you could let me teach, I'm looking for monetary value now because I need that now that I'm done my education. I'm really grateful for all of what has happened in the Torch family. This isn't a simple group. This is a multifaceted group with multifaceted vision and multifaceted joy and multifaceted playfulness. And as you bring yourself forward in any global education, spiritual education, understanding education in general, to each of us, I don't care if you're a business person or not, you're still educating your team. You're still educating. I did the spiritual renewal for 9 days, spiritual renewal for business. How needed is that? Can you spiritually take some time off as a spiritual renewal, as a top business owner? Yes, you can. You have to. Or your team will just die. There'll be so much chaos. You don't know what I've seen out as a nurse. I mean, oh my gosh. So as I heal, as I open myself up to healing, my lungs are still coughing. As I move into my own process, my humble heart of healing and health, my humble heart and my own inner peace, my own humble heart about my environment. I got the house fairly clean yesterday, but I've been wanting to mop my floors for 3 days. I haven't mopped them yet. I'm going to move into just sharing because this is on my couch. I want to give a shout out to Macrobiotics Today. This is Herman O'Hara, 1 year memorial. Let's read a quick, this just came in the mail and I want to give a shout out. These are amazing people. This is Lima. And it's just Lima Osawa was the wife of George Osawa. And he started an organization called Nippon CI in Japan, Center of Ignoramus. Let's just read The True Joy from Lino and Jane Stanchich, great macrobiotic teachers of our time. Herman and Cornelia invited Lino to stay in their home in San Francisco for 1 month later to their second home, Miramichi, in the California countryside. Lino moved to San Francisco to work as a shiatsu therapist and macrobiotic counselor. He served for several years with the Aihara's annual French Meadows Camp in California's Tahoe Forest. Each morning, they rang up the loud bell, hiking to magnificent waterfalls and enjoying evening campfires and musical shows. Meals were cooked on wood. Lino chopped wood. Healthy and strong, strengthening and delicious. All was done with Herman and Cornelia greeting everyone with happy, friendly smiles. Herman was a great teacher. And I always value spending time with him. It was a true joy. In 1981, Jane began to study macrobiotics in Boulder, Colorado with Lino, as well as Sandy Greenberg and Rebecca Wood. Herman and Cornelia visited and presented lively lectures and cooking classes. Jane, a total yinny at the time, recalls Cornelia instructing her to wash the rice, shouting, "Faster, faster." One moment afternoon, Cornelia taught us Japanese flower arrangements, taught us Japanese ikebana. What a beautiful memory. We all send Cornelia a heartfelt prayer of gratitude for her dedication, teachings, and sharp observations. We enjoyed assisting her in classes, going out after lectures, and learning recipes and techniques from her cookbooks. We think of Cornelia so often. We recall the vitality, the ready smiles, the humor. I thought it was quite courageous for this couple and other couples to journey to America after World War II, the transformative lifestyle, to pursue the future of peace, one peaceful world, the future peaceful world. This is the idea of Lino and Jane, and this is the idea that I've been working and studying and understanding. And if freedom prevails for each of us, it has to prevail with us personally first. And I pray that we as teachers globally, visionaries globally, theologians globally, masters of Islam, masters of Christianity, masters of Hinduism, masters of Sikhism, masters of indigenous cultures, masters of, the list goes on, of spiritual guides in our lives. May we all think about the depth and the heart of where education can go at this time and place, because this is the only time we have right now. In this moment, I thank you for joining. I thank you for bringing forth a few moments with me. It's been an hour. Wow. And I've got to go prepare for a special meeting, and I ask for prayers. And I ask for your guidance, always. I ask for your love, always. I ask for you to teach me, always. From the smallest child to the elder, I always ask for guidance. I always seek to listen, to try to learn, because everything is teaching us. And I'll leave you with this from Delac, where the Dreamcatcher was built, because it touches me deeply, that the education right now on this planet must be listening to the earth and be quiet to listen what the message is. And I really believe those words of wisdom from my brother Delac, that we have to learn to listen to this beautiful earth, this beautiful place we've been given, this beautiful presence. And may we honor our children, that they get to listen to us if we listen well enough. Adonai, peace to you. Peace to you and all. You and yours and all your relations. Mi etaquiasen, in my native tradition. Adonai in my Christian tradition. Aho. And I ask for your guidance and your presence and your love in all that you are, to come forward, step up, be the adult that you are. Let the children be adult-like, because they have tremendous wisdom for each of us. Show them the way, but listen, because they have something to give you. They have something rich to embrace you. I'll leave you with our beautiful school. If you want to donate, I'll put the PayPal up at the end. It'll go directly to Raymont School. Please let me know. Here's our school in Balochistan that my proceeds go to when I earn. I don't have many, being a student at 61, I'm a student of life for my life. And as Dalak actually said last week, it was so precious. He said, I'm not here to gain riches. I'm just here to gain a society and a people, to be the present that you are, the present person that you are, and to help this beautiful planet. Because all of these traditions have faltered, in my estimation, and all of them need our love and our respect. Here's our school. And remember, it had no plants, had no water in the schoolyard, had no computer lab, had no flowers, had no fences, had no doors, had one solar panel. So when you watch it, please realize what one man did for children up in Balochistan, Pakistan. And please donate so that the children can get the next layer. They need your support. Blessings.
Hello friends, I would like to show you our school. This is our school signboard. Inside of our school, friends, this is a solar school. You can see our solar. This is all beautiful. You can see the flowers. It's a green school. We would like to show you the computer lab. Hello teacher. Yes, this is the computer lab. You can see all the kids are learning different programs. So, hello Isanda, what are you doing?
I'm listening to talk.
Yes. What would you like to say about Taj family?
Long live Taj family.
Hello? Yes, what would you like to?
Thank you, Mama Line for seed.
Yes, Mr. Hussain.
Mama Line, you are so kind.
I will support you and the Taj family, and we are proud to be working with you and also working under your leadership. Thank you so much.
So here's my banner. If you want to donate, it'll go directly to Raymond. I can show you the receipt. And I'm so grateful for Raymond. I'm so grateful for these children to have an education that is moving in a powerful movement, in the richness that we are all given. And working with Raymond, working with this school 4 years ago, and it's a powerful gift to see what one person can do by you being an adult and taking action and taking time out of your busy lives and giving over. So if you can support us, we would just totally appreciate that. I will be going to Pakistan, and donations are welcomed. So you can put in there a message what you would like money to go to trip to Pakistan or trip to Ramat School, or sorry, a donation directly to Ramat School. The Torch family needs your support. We need tech people. We need really deeper wisdom keepers. And I'm excited about a new adventure with Denmark and my beautiful friends in Denmark that have created an eco village. And so I'm excited to bridge the world and the work in what we need. So have a beautiful day. Thank you. Peace. Peace be with you. Adonai.